The effects of Hurricane Juan at Point Pleasant Park's Amukati successional stage, presented by myself, Jack, Carey, and Joyetta, in which I will now be passing it off for the introduction.
Point Pleasant Park, situated on the southeastern tip of the Halifax Peninsula in Nova Scotia, boasts diverse habitats including coastal forests. The devastation caused by Hurricane Juan in September 2003 in Point Pleasant Park, Halifax, Nova Scotia, presented a unique opportunity for ecological research. The hurricane uprooted thousands of trees, leading to ecological disturbance, which means hurricanes that disrupt ecosystems, causing change in community structure and dynamics. Despite the destruction, studies indicate minimal impairment of park regeneration, with the aftermath offering insights into forest regeneration dynamics and ecosystem resilience. Before the hurricane, the park featured rich stands of mature trees, notably red oak. However, its urban context introduces complexities to ecological succession. The aftermath of Hurricane Juan altered the park's landscape, offering a natural laboratory to study post-disturbance regeneration and succession dynamics. The park's management goals and the impact of being an urban park on ecological research are key areas of interest for researchers. The research aims to evaluate the disturbance's impact, the post-hurricane landscape, and ecological succession processes with implications for restoration and biodiversity enhancement in urban parks. The hypotheses are based on the objectives of our study. Objective 1 is to evaluate changes to total density over time. Null hypothesis 1 is the total density of the forest community in Point Pleasant Park has not changed post Hurricane Juan from 2003 to 2023. Alternate hypothesis 1 is the total density of the forest community in Point Pleasant Park has increased post Hurricane Juan from 2003 to 2023. Our objective 2 is to analyze the density of dominant species over time. Null hypothesis 2 is the density of the dominant species in Point Pleasant Park has not changed from 2003 to 2023 post Hurricane Juan. Alternate hypothesis 2 is the density of the dominant species in Point Pleasant Park has increased from 2003 to 2023 post Hurricane Juan. Objective 3 is to study the changes in species richness over time. Null hypothesis 3 is the species richness in Point Pleasant Park has not changed from 2003 to 2023 post Hurricane Juan, and our alternate hypothesis 3 is the species richness in Point Pleasant Park has increased from 2003 to 2023 post Hurricane Juan.
This study examined 5 selected sites within Point Pleasant Park, Halifax, each highlighting the varied effects of Hurricane Juan in different locations. When analyzing Site 1, situated in a more central location, it is evident that it would have been more protected from the hurricane compared to Site 5. This is because Site 5, being close to the water, would have been more exposed and likely the primary target of the wind, rain, and the storm's force. Additionally, the proximity of Sites 4 and 5 allowed examiners to observe the storm's effects more acutely due to their closeness. Lastly, each site chosen was conveniently located next to a trail, ensuring easy accessibility for observation and study. Next, for procedure and collection, when measuring for DBH, which is density breast height, we used a form of measurement using diameter tape. The diameter tape measures the length of the convex hull around the irregular cross-sectional area of the tree. The diameter tape features a unique scaling system. One side of the tape contains a metric scale for measuring distance or length, while the other side features a pi scale. The metric scale is divided by pi, enabling direct measurement of the diameter of a circle from its circumference. Next, when calculating for density, a dendrometer was used. This tool helps establish a plot at a specific position and facilitates the counting of trees within that plot. DBH is commonly measured at 1.3 meters in Canada. Unlike other locations globally, DBH is a compromise for convenience, allowing easy accessibility and measurement on trees of all sizes and shapes, while still being highly correlated with target variables such as size or biomass. We utilized the diameter of tape by hooking it onto the tree at 1.3 meters, then walked completely around the tree perpendicular to the tree's plane, starting the measurement at 0 to ensure accuracy. Next, to calculate for total density, we had to determine the basal area in square meters per hectare, then had to measure the cross-sectional area of an individual stem to finally calculate the number of trees per hectare represented by a single tree in the bidder plot. Then for red spruce and red maple, we repeated the process with adjustments specific to each species. Next, in this experiment, we did a linear regression test. Linear regression is a statistical method used to examine the relationship between two or more variables. When data points on the scatterplot are closer to forming a straight line, it indicates a stronger correlation between the variables. Closer proximity to the line suggests a more significant relationship, whether positive or negative. In our experiment, the independent variables in our study was the year, while the dependent variables were total density, species richness, and the density of dominant trees. Through linear regression, we aim to understand how changes in the independent variable affect the dependent variables. Moving on to results, our QC statement expresses that we measured the total density of Point Pleasant Park after Hurricane Juan in 2003 of red spruce and red maple. Results show that the linear regression line of best fit increased by 0.5471. This indicates over time since the 2003 Hurricane Juan, the total density of Point Pleasant Park has increased. This predicts that the slope on our graph was at a large incline, meaning there was a large amount of growth in the population. In the future, the linear regression would start to taper off and decrease.
We wanted to study and investigate the density of two species of trees, the red maple, seen in Figure 5a, and the red spruce, seen in Figure 5b, after the effects of Hurricane Juan in 2003, in which was done by a linear regression analysis. From the years that recorded densities, we see that the most dominant species after Hurricane Juan was the red spruce, as seen in Figure 5b. In contrast, the tree with the highest density over time is the red maple, shown in Figure 5a. While the maple tree has the largest density of the trees from the years following the hurricane, we could see after the hurricane there was a complete desiccation of the red maple for them to later reappear in 2005. From these results, we accept our hypothesis and reject our null. As we could see, there's a high density change from the years 2004 to 2023, while each species has a high fluctuation in densities between each site. Juan had a strong effect at Point Pleasant Park as there was a 75% loss in trees and canopy cover. This effect resulted in the red maple being nearly wiped out when compared to the red spruce, due to the spruce having a high resilience to storms and disturbances. Furthermore, the density of the red maple had a much larger recovery when compared to the red spruce. As for the maple, has a much higher growth rate. This results in a larger recovery rate for the red maple when compared to the red spruce. Point Pleasant Park will continue to grow in biomass until it reaches a climax density. We can suspect that there will be a time lag before species of trees reach an equilibrium due to their dynamic. Furthermore, this dynamic and growth to climax will continue to change due to future storms and other disturbances.
Since 2003 Hurricane Juan, the species richness of Point Pleasant Park has increased. Interpreting the regression equation, the coefficient of 0.5898 for the independent variable suggests that on average species richness increases by approximately that number species per year following the disturbance. Additionally, the intercept term of minus 1180.9 indicates the estimated species richness at the onset of the study period, representing the initial impact of the hurricane on biodiversity. Measuring the species richness of red spruce and red maple trees, we found that the linear regression showed a 0.6418 increase. From the results, we can conclude that the species richness has increased over the years since 2003 after Hurricane Juan. The hurricane led to destruction of approximately 75% of the park's forest cover, resulting in substantial alteration of the park's ecosystem. The regeneration process post-Hurricane Juan has been influenced by factors such as poor soil conditions, high disturbance levels, and the dominance of the short-lived species like white spruce and subclimax communities within the park, and has played a crucial role in the regeneration process, showcasing the resilience of some species in re-establishing themselves within the park. As succession proceeds, a wide variety of plants and animal species characteristic of mature forest ecosystems are expected to colonize the park, leading to an increase in species richness, causing the forest in Point Pleasant Park to move towards climax community. Hence, we can accept our hypothesis that the species richness in Point Pleasant Park has increased from 2003 to 2023 post-Hurricane Juan.
Now moving on to our three questions. Question 1. What are future conservation and management plans that can help Point Pleasant Park from future disturbances? The findings from this study show that disturbances such as large storms and human activity could substantially affect a park's successional stage, which will affect the density and diversity of trees as well as other fauna. The areas that experienced the most significant damage from Hurricane Juan was experienced closest to the shoreline. For future conservation of a park, protection along the shoreline can be created by implementing a rocky seawall, which will help to minimize the effects of wave breaks along the shoreline. Furthermore, human activity affects a successional stage by slowing down the recovery recovery rate. Responsible human activity is vital for an ecosystem's recovery for future conservation and management of the park. This includes staying on trails, picking up after yourself and others by leaving no garbage behind, and decreasing our overall footprint within the park.
To answer the question 2, another disturbance of the same magnitude as Hurricane Juan would significantly impact Point Pleasant Park's current stage of succession. It would accelerate or reset the succession process, altering the park's species composition and biodiversity. This would test the resilience of Point Pleasant Park's ecosystem and necessitate adaptive management strategies to facilitate recovery. Additionally, it would shed light on the interplay between human activities and natural processes in urban park environments. Overall, such an event would further shape the park's ecological trajectory and provide valuable insights for its management and conservation efforts.
In conclusion, it's found that Point Pleasant Park is in a mid-succession stage. Due to the area undergoing a large change from Hurricane Juan, the park is in an intermediate stage where the ecosystem is increasing in diversity of plants and animals, while yet to still reach their climax community. Point Pleasant Park is located along the coastline and is in an urban area, making it strongly susceptible to storm impacts and human activity. Because of this, another large storm were to hit Point Pleasant Park for a second time, it could change the successional stage of the area. A large disturbance in the ecosystem could result in the diversity going back to a low stage and or slowing down the mid-succession. Furthermore, human activity slows down the succession rate due to its large disturbance to plant growth. As seen from the results, we could suspect that these disturbances in succession, it could bring down the mid-succession again to a lower succession. The Mi'kmaq Nation believe that it's important to maintain a strong connection with nature and to live in harmony with the environment. Point Pleasant Park is a great example of incorporating nature into our lives, as the Mi'kmaq community believe that it was vital to have a strong relationship with the environment around us, while to also conserve it. To respect the land and to live in a harmonic environment, we should conserve and manage areas with levels of stress undergoing low to mid-successions to help create a healthy ecosystem at Point Pleasant Park. Thank you for listening to our presentation. We would like to acknowledge Allison and Dr. Robert Latta for teaching Biology 2060 and to the students that collected data from 2004 to 2023. We would also like to acknowledge and appreciate the land we are on is shared with the Mi'kmaq People's Territory.